Hello, fellow travelers. Welcome back to Respawn Station. My name is Kandula, and today I'm joined by Nick Sivak, the man confused as to why we're in episode 31, but we've already recorded episode 32. Well, ladies and gentlemen, next week it's going to be a special one, and like I said, we've already recorded it, so we can say it's going to be a special one. It's an interview with an indie developer, and how do I hint at this? Oh, we've covered the game on the channel before, so head on over to watch.respawnstation.com, watch every video that we've done, and then maybe you'll find out which one I'm talking about. But yeah, next week it's gonna be a cool one. I'm very much so looking forward to it. Nick was also there, so Nick, do you have any hyping up words?
It's for a fun game.
There you go. Wow, cryptic. And now you have to figure out which one of the games that we've talked about are fun. I think you've limited the games down now because they're not going to watch Downward and be like, oh, I wonder if this is who's talking about. But with that said, ladies and gentlemen, there's just a few updates, I guess, generally speaking, some housekeeping, if you will. First of all, the biggest one. This interview that we're talking about is actually one of 3 interviews that we currently have lined up, and the other one is already up. It's up on respawnstation.com right now, and it's with the director of the My Time series, who of course have made My Time at Porsche, My Time at Sandrock. I highly recommend checking it out. It seems that first of all, it's just a really good interview. In terms of, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but it's a good interview because it was just the information that the answers that we were given are like actually pretty cool. But then also, the My Time community found the post, and it's become it's become a very interesting conversation in that community because in the interview, one of the little tidbits that the game director, who I'm not going to say the name of because I don't want to mispronounce it, in my ignorance, but it essentially said that only 20% of the players finished the campaign for My Time at Sandrock, which led to them scrapping DLC that was going to come out for the game because it's story DLC that wasn't like 80% of the people didn't get to the end of the story, so you can't really continue it much for a lot of that audience. So yeah, very interesting interview. Highly recommend checking it out. What's uploading? Also, what else? Oh, next week, briefly to say it, we're not possibly going to be live next week. Going through a setup change. You might not even notice the setup change because I'm always I'm just floating in a void of color. So you might not notice it, but this side of the setup will all be changing. So that's why we have a little bit of a truncated schedule. Truncated may not be the right word for that, but anyway, Nick, it's finally time. 3 minutes. Yeah, I think this might be the longest spiel that I've given before I ask this very important question, which is, what have you been playing? I know one thing you've been playing. I've also been playing it, but I don't know if you want to start with that or not.
We can if you want to. That, or do you want the thing that I've played less or the thing I've played more?
How about this?
Do it like that.
How about this? You give me the less, and then we'll both do the more, and then I'll give you my less. Okay, it's a pattern.
Sure. My more is different from what you've been playing, unless you've been playing the thing that I'm playing.
I'm not playing the thing you've been playing, but I see what you're saying here. Okay, there's a confusion.
Well, I'll start with my less.
Yes. So, yeah, let's go for it.
My less this week that I've been playing is Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon on the 3DS.
Is that what Luigi says?
It's more worried Mario noises. Yes, exactly. Stuff like that.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so this was born out of me just being extremely lazy, if I'm being honest. I was really tired one night, and I was like,
I want to play a game, but I don't know where, so I'll do it on my Nintendo Switch. And what do I have on the Nintendo Switch? Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon.
Well, not even that, because I don't have the Switch version. I'm playing on
Oh.
the 3DS, the original. So
Oh.
yeah, I was really tired, and basically that I grabbed my 3DS. I'm like, I'm just gonna go lay in bed. What should I play? And then I was like, oh, I haven't played Dark Moon yet, and that's kind of Halloweeny themed, seeing as we're in October. So
Yes.
I went
Yeah.
ahead and grabbed that, and I'm about 2 hours into it, so I'm still pretty early on. But having a lot of fun so far. I played the first game on GameCube like a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and
Dark Moon is
I liked
also
it
on the Switch, or I know there's some Dark Luigi's
so
Mansion games on the Switch. I don't know which ones.
the third one released on Switch originally, and now
Okay.
now they have Luigi's Mansion 2, which is Dark Moon. Um,
Oh, I see.
it
Okay.
was called Luigi's Mansion 2 in Japan, I believe. And so
Gotcha.
when they
Okay.
made the Switch version, they just named it that. But that game is Dark Moon.
Okay. Okay. Now I have the context. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. So the first game is, I kind of described it to some friends of mine as like Nintendo's stab at a Resident Evil game, if that makes sense. You're kind of like in this mansion, you're searching for keys and, exploring various wings of the house while capturing ghosts and getting cash, more or less. And this game kind of continues that sort of gameplay philosophy, but it's a bit more broken up. So in this one, it's more like level based, which I might be remembering it wrong, but the first game maybe was broken up by levels too. But it's like you start in this mansion, you go through like a couple of wings, and then Professor Egad, who's like your kind of mad scientist companion, he pulls you back out, lets you cash in your ghosts and everything, and then we go into another wing for like a different mission. And basically, you are exploring these mansion like rooms, and ghosts will be there. There's different types of ghosts, and they can have small little quirks about them. So these like green ghosts, they're just kind of like your standard ghost, and usually you just kind of flash them with your flashlight and then start sucking them up with the poltergust.
Sure.
There's red ones that will do like a charging melee attack. There's
Mm.
these blue ones that will hide inside of items in the room, so you have to go interact with the item and then stun
Oh.
them to be able to
Sure.
suck them into the machine. So they change it up with
What
different
about the
ghosts
purple one?
throughout. I've not met the purple one yet, so
Oh
I'm not
shit!
exactly certain.
Spoilers.
Yeah. But yeah, you're looking for keys. You can interact with different things in the environment, and like coins and cash will fly out that you can suck up, which is always fun.
Hmm.
There's like light puzzle solving where you might have to use the poltergust to blow a fan, which will like lower a platform or something. So it's a typical kind of Nintendo fare. It's just a unique vibe for their games, because it very much does lean into like the spooky vibes. It's not like a scary game or anything. It's not like an actual horror game, but compared to everything else that they make, it's usually more like, you know, Halloweenish in vibe. So I think it fits the time period that we're in pretty well right now. And like we discussed, we both like to play spookier games or horror games around the month of October. So I
We
just
would
thought it
try
was
to.
like a
I sure am. Yeah. Yeah.
mhm. And so that was just like a fun little idea I had, and yeah, I'm having fun with it. I think this game is set across multiple mansions. I'm still just in the first one, so I'm not sure how many there are, but uh, yeah.
Huh. Well, you got
The main
a lot
story
more.
is that a moon was in the sky, the dark moon, the titular dark moon, and it gets destroyed by booze, and that kind of lets all the ghosts go crazy. So you're trying to put the moon back together and stop all the ghosts.
Yeah, you gotta play it till the end to figure out how it connects to Transformers: Dark of the Moon. I think there's a connection there as well, but we
Yeah.
only Nintendo and Michael Bay know that link. Oh my God, Link! Oh my, what if that's the connection? Anyway,
Zelda's tied in now.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, hey, I've never played any of the Luigi's Mansion ones, but I think Dark Moon was I do own a copy of it on the 3DS, and I think it would be probably most likely the one I'd jump into as well, but only if it was a similar situation where I was like, God, I'm tired. What do I have? Just smack
Yeah, it
my
was
hand
really
around
funny.
until I
Like I
land.
just like turned around and was looking at my shelf, and I was like, "Well, I have Fire Emblem. I don't feel like that's gonna be the choice. I
Another
have
good game though.
Persona Q2, which is like another RPG kind of thing, and
Do
it's
you have
like
a
I'm not
Bravely
really in the mood
Default?
for that.
The game was
I
super
don't.
expensive. I bought a copy when it first came out, and now it's like super fucking expensive.
Yeah, I played the demo for it back in the day, and like I was
That's
like, it's cool,
yeah.
but it didn't really scratch my fancy, or
You're
however
you're
that
you're waiting
phrase
to play
goes.
Triangle Strategy on the MetaQuest. I know what kind of a
Yes.
player you are, Nick. Now, well, okay. There's different places this conversation can go. I have not finished Shattered Space, but I know you have, so we can give a
Yes.
definitive review. I've played it for a good 7 hours, 8 hours at this point, so I've made some good progress. So if you want, we can go into
Hmm.
that next, or you can
Yeah,
go into
let's
the
do
other
it.
spooky thing. I don't know what you're trying to.
Let's do Shattered Space because I'll we'll talk about the other game in a bit.
All right. Well, 2 weeks ago, Bethesda dropped the first DLC for their first new IP in 20 years. Starfield Shattered Space. Nick has rolled credits on it, the proverbial credits because there's no credits. And I'm about 2/3 of the way done through the DLC. I'm doing some more side quests than I anticipated, but we'll get into that. Nick, well, actually, here, just to set it all up for everybody, the story set up for Shattered Space. You find the story content as soon as you warp to any different star system, and you have to be I think a recommended level 35, which I was incidentally I just hit 35 when I last played the game. So yeah, I was
Mhm.
perfectly timed to step into the DLC. But skipping over all the minute details, you end up on Varun Kai, which is the homeworld of House Varun, and you find yourself in the middle of just an absolute it's essentially like the coming of the times. I mean, like the citadel the scaled citadel is engulfed in this gravity bubble thing, and like Anasco. I keep saying like like Ahsoka or something like it's like it just keeps getting the sci-fi names are getting jumbled
I
up. But
think you got it. I think it's a Nasco
Anasco, yeah,
Varun.
he's like appearing in visions, and essentially you have to help House of Rune come together and find him and figure out what the hell happened. Nick, give me your full thoughts on the game. I know last week you just played a little bit. You weren't firmly deciding on one way or another. How did it
Hmm.
shake out for you after? Well, I'm guessing you said 10 hours, right, for the main campaign?
Closer to 15 because I
Okay,
did pretty much everything and got all the achievements
you
because
cleaned
I
up.
have to have
Yeah,
100%.
you cleaned up. Sure.
Yeah, so it's it's a real mixed bag if I was gonna just put it all out there. This is coming from a self-professed Starfield fan. I've not shied away from that fact. I
Yep.
really, I like the game. I like the base game. I have a collector's edition, obviously, so that gave me access to the DLC and everything. Um, but yeah, just throughout that runtime, there's things that I like about the DLC, and there's things that I really don't like about the DLC. Um, it's I'll start with the things that I like because I feel
Sure.
like it's things that we can both kind of touch on. I like the planet, the way that it looks, Varun Kai. Visually, I think like the art direction of not only just the planet, but also the city of Dazra that you get to
Yeah.
explore
Yeah.
is really cool. They have a lot of like unique kind of architecture that you don't really find anywhere else in the base game. So it does definitely help in making it feel like a brand new place that we haven't gone to in this game that has thousands of planets or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, there
Um,
could be a planet like Ruin Kai. We just haven't been there because there's fucking 1,000 planets.
right? um so yeah, I like the art direction for it. I like the combat scenarios for the most part. It is more of the same, I would say, from the base game of Starfield,
Sure.
except for the final encounter.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I really liked the final encounter because, not to get too spoilery since you haven't gotten there yet, it's a lot. It's it's very hectic and a lot of enemies coming at you at
Okay,
once.
okay.
So um, that kind of allowed me to really engage with the different kind of weapon switching and power switching that I was getting up to a lot in many of these fights. So I really liked several of the combat encounters in the
Uh-huh.
game. And some of the side quests I enjoyed. There's one. Did you do the one where you are looking for the shop owner's missing relative?
I think I may have picked that one up, but I have not finished that one yet.
That one I enjoyed. Whenever before release, they were saying that Shattered Space was kind of like more horror vibe and scary. That mission kind of plays with those themes a little
Yeah, yeah.
bit. So just like from what you're doing in the mission, it's very different from any of the other quests that you've really done in the base game. So I enjoyed it for that. Was it really scary? No.
You
It
did
wasn't
not once
scary at
say
all,
shiver me
but
timbers, Nick?
no. They
Wow.
like you can see what they're trying to do, but it's just like you know it reads as Bethesda trying to make something scary that's really just not scary at all.
Yeah,
So,
fair.
um, your mileage will vary with it, but I enjoyed the unique kind of flavor that quest brought. But outside of that, like, there's just a lot of stuff that I was really like mid or not just really enthused about in the
Sure.
DLC.
Yeah.
Um, because I was just talking about certain quests that I like. There's a lot of quests that I think just aren't very interesting in the DLC.
Yeah.
It's a lot of specifically in the side quest department. There's one quest in particular. I think it's called like the scientific method or something. And it is straight up just like a padding quest where it's like you have to keep going back to these people multiple times and then they're like go out and find these things and they're of course at like every like widest corner of the explorable area. So you're just going around to these spots to like interact with like a tablet or pick something up and then go all the way back to this spot for like a 5-minute conversation and then go out and do it again. And it's just like not interesting. The entire like premise of the quest just wasn't that interesting. The dialogue wasn't that interesting. So it just ended up feeling like a bit of a nothing burger. Um Certain ones of the main quest, so like basically as we kind of got into last time, the main quest, you're kind of trying to get in the good graces of each of these houses under House of Arun,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so that they will give you some sort of access or component that you need to build this giant device that's going to let you enter the scaled citadel. And some of these can be interesting. There's one that I liked where you're kind of working with this one group. I think it's the House Dulkef ones
Sure.
where you go to this station that a bunch of zealots have like hostages on, and you're trying to like kind of de-escalate, a potential negotiation.
Yeah.
And there are some cool kind of role playing things within that mission that I enjoyed. But then there's like one where you're just kind of like searching for this head of the house's like son because he said that he didn't want to work for the house anymore, and then his dad was just like angry and he's like, well, go kill him. And it's just like like it's for me personally, I guess I should contextualize it. I think I mentioned this last time, Sri, but House of Arun, while they didn't have much of a presence in the base game, and it's nice that we're getting like an expansion completely around them to flesh them out more, they just never have been really a faction that I've been super interested in. So like whenever it gets into like, house politics about, whether or not the Great Serpent is controlling everything or not, it's just like I'm just kind of out already. And like I, get more attached to the like the kind of interesting threads that pop up, and it's like, oh, like I have like a little bit of like role playing that I can do here with like my character that like, probably doesn't believe in the Great Serpent.
Right.
But so much of the conflict is just like about, you know, the Great Serpent and whether or not you being there is like preordained or if you have free will. But it doesn't really like go much beyond that. So narratively speaking, it just wasn't that interesting to me. Gameplay wise, I was having fun, you know, in the various like you dungeon areas and stuff like that. But just like story wise, like whenever we got into conversations, it just kind of felt like, kind of by the numbers for me personally. And there's one more thing that I want to say kind of story wise, which is the dialogue, I think is like noticeably inflated in the DLC, to the point where there's like several conversations that I would have along the main quest where it seriously felt like, they would say a line and then it would switch to the next line and they basically just said a rephrased version of what they just said and then it would like do it again. And it's like, okay, like I understand that I have to
Yeah.
go over there and, talk to the people. Like I don't know why we have to keep saying this like over and over and over again.
Yes. And I think that point was kind of exacerbated by the fact that I've had the game like crash on me 4 or 5 times, and so it's like
Hmm.
every time it happens, I have to. I'm like, okay, I got to do that dialogue sequences over again. And luckily, it's just dialogue sequences, but yeah, it's just the dialogue is just it can get a little bit like I get it. Like, I get the point.
Yeah. The the exploration we should touch on because it is standalone in that the DLC all takes place on Varun Kai, so you don't have to travel to other planets or anything if you don't want to. Obviously, you can leave at any time, so if you need to go like back to like a home base or something like that, you can. But I thought a lot of the locations on Varun Kai that you're exploring, kind of similarly to my overall thoughts, were a bit of a mixed bag. It's like there's this cool location that's in the one corner that is like a giant rock structure that you're going along this path on, and then there's like a giant like religious kind of artifact up at the top and some buildings. And that was a really fun kind of location to scale and pick apart piece by piece. But then surrounding Dazra, I swear there's like 8 or 9 named locations that are all just farms. And it's like these just aren't interesting places to explore. Like you go there for certain quests or to talk to a character or something. But I remember exploring the immediate area when I first started, and it's like you found like 4 or 5 farms, and it's just like okay. Like
Oh, great!
I
Another
I
farm.
guess
Oh, look, another
ex-
groat.
exactly. So like some places are cool, but then there's just like it feels just like again like a lot of like filler
I
kind
do
of
find it.
stuff that.
I do like the fact that this society of how like Varun Kai is so extremely dependent on the growth. Like it is just you play Shattered Space and you'll see groats around, but then you'll see like groat milk, groat meat, groat cubes. It's just like groat
Mhm.
everywhere. I gotta
Yeah.
I gotta appreciate that.
And kind of the last thing for me, because we briefly talked about it last week, where I'm pretty familiar with DLCs from Bethesda, whereas this is your first DLC, I believe, for a Bethesda
Yes,
game.
it is.
And so a lot of these criticisms that I have are like comparing them to things that have come in the past. And one thing that was really nice about games in like, Fallout 4, Fallout 3, Skyrim, those sorts of things, when you went to a DLC location, in addition to experiencing a new story and, finding, new lands to discover, you would also get like unique gear and stuff like that. So
I
new
see.
weapons or new armor sets and stuff. And Starfield just feels kind of lacking in that department. There are a couple of new weapons. There's like a, particle minigun and like a weird kind of like grenade launcher almost kind of rifle. Uh and like a melee weapon or two, but a lot of them just end up being like reskins of base game weapons with like a different name.
Yeah.
And it's just not that exciting, especially when, you go through a location, get to the end, fight like some dungeon boss or whatever, and it just drops like a legendary little dagger that you can get like anywhere in the
Yeah.
game. I was kind of expecting there to be a bit more in that regard. But yeah, that's kind of like where I'm at on it. I've talked with, various people online and have watched, different reviews, and it seems like it's very polarizing, but also just like people were expecting more. And especially because, we got it because we paid for like early access or whatever. But if you're just buying the DLC standalone, I think it's like $30. And it's like that's a steep price for, I think, what is on course here.
Yeah.
Especially when you
Yeah.
consider things like Far Harbor from Fallout 4. I think that was like 10 or $15. Like it's like half the price and a, a much better, overall experience from Bethesda.
For me, if my thoughts are pretty much on par with yours. So the difference is, like you were saying, I hadn't played a Bethesda DLC before, so this is my first kind of experience with it. Now, I still am. I like. So here's the thing: to boil it down, so that we're not just repeating the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why Shattered Space is so good for me is because it reminds me of how much I liked Starfield, the base game. I think
Mm-hmm.
the base mechanics of, honestly, like the shooting and just the way the dialogue and honestly, I like everything about that I really liked. Now I do agree with like the writing in this DLC is a little bit like, okay, I get it. Let's get to the point.
Mm-hmm.
But no, by and large, the reason why I like Shattered Space is because it's more Starfield. That being said, yeah, I think that it's a DLC, and so if you can give it some slack or not based on your own kind of the way that you look at it, but it's very predictable. And so what ends up happening
Mm-hmm.
is that, like, after the first hour of the DLC, once and I mean, like, once you've decided to step onto the Oracle and go down, like, just initiate the story content, an hour in you get your mission objective, and it's the mission objective is to unite all three houses, and that's the story. Like, that's just the DLC. So it's very
Mm-hmm.
predictable in terms of like where, okay, I have to do this and this and this, and we'll get there. It is interesting in some places how it'll give you a situation of, hey, try to, like, you have to do this, and then someone else will be like, hey, actually, if you don't do that and you do this instead, we could, mutually beneficial perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that stuff is interesting, and some of the moral conundrums, if you will, or like um, the rail, like the game essentially tries to pose like different rail car situations, or is that what they're called? Like where it's like, oh, you kill one person, or you switch it and it's like three people,
Mm-hmm.
and so the game tries to do that, but I think ultimately, kind of to drive home the point you were saying, I just, as much as like any attachment I have, any interest I have in House Varun, is from my own. It's like from my character, is from the fact that I had Andreja as my as a character for, like, my character's name is Vikram, so Vikram's love interest was Andreja, and then with the ending it kind of, we had to separate, I'll say, to be cryptic. And so for this, it was like I was giving myself like, okay, let's see what that culture is like, because the whole time you're together, it's very we're very cryptic about it. The one thing
Mm-hmm.
that I'll say that I thought was cool, kind of getting out of it, was, and Nick, I don't know if you've actually gotten there, and so maybe minor spoiler alert for the main story of Starfield, but mainly, I guess, the quest line for Andreja. But essentially, there's a point where you go to some place if you decide that you want to like marry, but it's not like a marriage type of thing, because that's not how, I guess, they necessarily work. Again, this is a year ago, so I'm describing this to you, but
Yeah.
But essentially, like when you decide to do it, you have to go through this ritual or whatever. And part of it, at some point, Andreja shows you her this knife, and this knife is essentially like chiseled from like or like attached to the groat that you have that she had to kill when she joined House Rune, and you also have to kill a groat when you do it. But it was like interesting because then as I was walking down the road, I saw this little girl like holding a like one of those things, and she's like, whoa, and like her mom was explaining. I was like, whoa, that's what Andreja was talking about a year ago at this point. So that stuff again, I giving the game that investment, I think you get more out of it that way. But yeah, I think that House of Rune in general, I'm just like, man, you guys are fucking ridiculous. And like it was like I was dealing with people that I knew that I couldn't rationalize with, but I was like, yeah, sure. Because like if I was to have a pound for pound conversation, I'd be like, you guys are fucking wrong. There's no fucking great serpent. Okay, right. Shut the fuck up. Like that's not what's happening. You guys are just trapped on this fucking planet. But I'm like, okay, let's just see what's going on. And so it is weird. Like I maybe if you really like House of Rune and like you're like, whoa, this is like the coolest thing, I think you'd probably get more out of it because you're literally spending so much time with people just fucking like, may the serpent lead your way, like it's just everywhere. But yeah, as maybe it's maybe my character's atheist. I don't know. But it was just like, yeah, I just couldn't care too much about it. I think that it was more so like that looming citadel in the distance that was like kind of fueling me to go forward. But that being said, certain crashes aside and kind of the rest of it aside, I think that the core of it, the game still looks good. The facial animations, if anything, are a little overdone, but they're very expressive, and the music still absolutely slaps. So yeah, overall, it's not like a flawless DLC experience, but it's just like I would ask yourself, is this worth $30 or $35? I forget what it is now. Did you just say it? I just forgot.
I think it's 30.
Okay, yeah, $30. Okay, actually, I think it was like 35 for the upgrade for that. I think that's why I'm confusing. The premium upgrade, gotcha. I think it was 35. But either way, $30 for this, that's something you got to ask yourself. I would say probably not, especially because it's like if I had to pay for this and it was all just about House of Rune, I'd be like, okay, I didn't have to play this. But yeah.
Yeah, there's two other like minor things that popped up that I also wanted to touch on. Was that because you mentioned the music, and I love the music during the combat and everything, but one music thing that stood out to me, it's very odd that there's no music that plays in Dazra itself. At first I didn't really pick up on this. I was just kind of exploring and everything. And yeah, like it's just kind of like, atmospheric, like kind of like sounds like when you're exploring the city. And again, at first I didn't even pick up on it, but then I traveled off to create my Cowboy Bebop ship that I mentioned last week, and recognize that like New Atlantis and Aquila and Neon, they all have like music, or Neon doesn't necessarily have like music, but it has all of the advertisements and stuff that play, so that kind of informs its soundscape.
Sure.
But New Atlantis and Aquila definitely have like music that plays while you're exploring, and it just felt kind of like weird and like static, and I couldn't tell if it was like creative decision because this place has just been ravaged by
right, yeah. I don't know if it's I didn't notice it personally. I only really notice it when it queues up at the right times during kind of overworld exploration or whatnot. Is Nick gone? Oh shit, Nick is gone. Live. Nick disappeared. Cannot see him. He's frozen. Oh no, Nick. I can't hear you or see you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, while Nick is away, look, Starfield, $30, or Shattered Space, $30. I don't know if it's worth it, guys, if I'm being honest. Retro, what's up, man? How's it going? I didn't say what's up, gamers, to you, but what's up, gamer? How's it going? Do you guys want to see just Nick's face frozen in the corner? Would that make it better if you guys could just see his face? Just he hasn't left, so I don't know what happened. It's a little worrying. You know what I mean? He's just there staring at me. At first, I thought he just like gave a pause for my sake, but no, yeah, he's just gone. He's just gone. Well, I'm currently still playing through Shattered Space. I'm about 8 hours in, 7-8 hours in. I think that oh, also, you know what? Here's what I'll do. Here's what I'll do. It's almost like he's with us. Yeah, if you close your eyes and you kind of picture it, I think Nick is always with us. I did go out of the way and buy the rover, or not buy, I did buy the rover, but like I went and procured the rover, and it controls like a goddamn warthog, which I'm not a fan of. I prefer just like Far Cry controls for cars, and so it's a little frustrating having to use the warthog controls, which was essentially means that like the car goes in whatever direction you're looking on in. So, oh, he's back. Nick, hello. I can hear you.
Okay, good.
I was just talking about the rover. I finally got the rover, and I don't like the fact that it controls like a warthog.
It's like a less nice warthog.
At first, I thought
it's okay.
At first, I thought the gameplay was shown was No Man's Sky. You could be mistaken for that. It's fair. It's fair.
Yeah. Did you finish talking about the rover? I don't want to interrupt you.
Yes. Yeah. I was just filling air. You know what I mean?
The one other thing I wanted to mention was how they do some interesting little gameplay things in Shattered Space, but it doesn't quite go far enough. It's like I'm wondering if these are like little experiments to see about later kind of mechanics that they can include. But
what are you referring to?
In some caves, there's like destructible walls that are made of rocks that you can shoot, and I don't remember that being anywhere in the base game.
Yeah, when you're like running away. Well, I experienced it when you're running away from a certain thing, a certain event. You have to close the caves behind you.
There's definitely that, and there's some side quests that they hide things behind rock walls that you can shoot down. There's a side quest that you do that involves playing a music box for an NPC, that I don't remember really having a thing. It's like you open it up in your inventory and it plays music, and then the NPC has like a reaction. It's nothing crazy.
Oh, he's gone again. That's crazy. This one is a lot more unnatural of a pose, so I was able to discern the fact that he was not. It was much faster this time at discerning the fact that he was not pausing in the middle of talking. Oh my god. He's dropped twice. I feel like he's I'm trying to think of what actor got dropped in a movie. He's like, I can't even say. I'm not gonna say it because it's not probably the best analogy for it. Nick, you're still gone, buddy. I don't see you, or I don't hear you. If you can hear me, I don't actually. I should have asked if he could hear me. That'd have probably been a crucial part. Damn, I'm gonna have to reboot real quick. Hey, no worries, Nick. I got it, buddy. Don't worry. All right, so Nick is also going to talk about another game that I'm guessing he's saying. I actually don't know if he's played it or not or whatnot, but all right, so here's the thing. Let's talk about some general stuff while we're waiting, just to get it out of the way. All right. First of all, Red Dead Redemption 2. No, sorry, Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption 2 is already out. Red Dead Redemption and Undead Nightmare are coming to PC on October 29th. So at the end of the month, perfect time for Halloween. You can play some Red Dead and Undead Nightmare at the same time. And, he's not here. I thought he was here for a second. Next up, there's a AAA Avatar The Last Airbender game coming. It's currently in development from Saber Interactive. And I got to say, that's extremely promising. Saber Interactive, what I remember them for most recently is, of course, Warhammer 40K Space Marine 2, which I just realized I don't think Nick has gotten a copy, but I don't think he's actually played it. So that'll be fun to get his thoughts on. Probably sometime, I'm hoping, next month, once once he gets through the Halloween phase that he's going through right now. Of course, we're all going through the Halloween phase. My game that I'm going to talk about, I'll tell you what, it's very spooky. That being said, I also want to mention the fact that last week you guys voted for Condemned Criminal Origins. So if you're new to the stream, if you're new to the podcast and you have not yet seen the fact that we're doing another episode of Retrograde, yes, right, 3 episodes. We're got greenlit for a whole season 1. I don't know how long season 1's going to be, but we got greenlit for a whole season 1. So next episode is going to be about Condemned Criminal Origins, and I do have a copy, but I won't talk about anything regarding the game because I have not played it. I am very excited though, as this turns into a one-man show. Guys, feel free to pitch me questions about video games. I'm here to talk. But no, I'm very excited though for this new setup. Again, you guys, I'm always floating in this ethereal void of a random color of the week, but typically, my setup is very cramped. Like I have a very cramped setup, so it's going to be breathing. There's going to be a lot of breathing room that I'm very excited to have, and it'll mean that I have more space for my gaming stuff, so I can really. I think it's a crucial part of any collector, right? I think Nick would probably agree with me, and look, I think Nick would agree with me, but I'm not half the fucking collector that Nick is, and I still feel this way, which is that the best part about collecting is actually the being on the shelf. Like when everything is on the shelf, and you can, I like to have them alphabetical and by console. So it's like, you have PlayStation alphabetical, Xbox alphabetical, Nintendo alphabetical. That's all I have. I was going to make a joke about like something else, but as what do you collect? Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Retro. At one point, I think I was, the moment I started to get an expendable income, and I was like, okay, I can actually pick up games for myself. It was the PlayStation 4 generation, early PlayStation 4 generation, and I was like, oh, I can actually pick up games. But little did I know, the PS4 would be an absolute behemoth and just a shit ton of games. So I have quite a few. Like, if anything, I mainly just collect games that I have an interest in. So I always pick up like I just picked up Batman VR for the PlayStation VR, and so I like PlayStation. I'd say primarily PlayStation, but I have a whole bunch of. I mean, you guys can't see it because I took it off screen, or I moved it from my background. Jeez, I punched the desk. But my collection is on the PS5 is much slimmer, and so I'm trying to get the PS5 now a little bit, embellish that a little bit. And I have some fucking no-name games too, but I mostly, like 90% of the games that I have, I do plan on playing. So it just depends on like, finding the right ones. There he is. Look at him. Back.
Am I back again?
Yes, you are. Nick, do you agree? This is going to be a topic for another episode entirely, but do you agree that the best part of collecting games is seeing it on the shelf and staring at it occasionally as you walk by?
Game collectors don't play games. We buy them for decoration.
We're not game players. We're game collectors. That should be your dead giveaway. All right, Nick. Hopefully, we got a stable connection. Let's. Do we wrap up? I actually don't even remember how we left off Shattered Space. It was.
There was another thing I was going to talk about, but I think with all the interruptions now, it's probably just best to move on.
It's oddly apt that in the conversation about Starfield Shattered Space, you crashed 2 times. It's honestly, it writes itself. It's poetic in its own way.
Yep.
Now, as I was saying, to get back into the topic, or the segue to the next topic. So, last week, you guys voted on what we're going to play for episode 3 of Retrograde, which is a Condemned Criminal Origins, by the way, if you guys want to get the game
I didn't see the results yet.
And play for yourself. Now, here's the thing. I have not yet played Condemned Criminal Origins, but I did buy the game, and in the process of buying the game, Nick, I had a moment of renegade retrograde where I was like, I can complete my backlog on my own. So I also ended up picking up Split Second, and wow, it's so
nice.
This game is so sick. I mean, so
yeah.
I'd played Split Second before, at friends' houses and stuff. Mainly, I remember playing the crap out of the demo for Split Second, and replaying that the part of the map that has the plane crashing down. I thought that was so fucking sick. And I'd like to think over the last, I actually don't know how long a game's been out, but I'll say 20 years. Over the last 20 years, I'd like to think I've matured as a person, Nick. Emotionally, I think, physically, I've matured. But boy, seeing that plane come down in this fucking game, I'm still like, this is so badass. It's still just as cool. And so for those of you who don't know, Split Second is a racing game, but the twist is that you are essentially starring, or you're starring in an action show where each kind of level of the game is a different episode. I believe there's like 9 or 10 episodes total, and each episode has a few races that you play through. And as you play through them, the higher you place in a race or a given event, the more points you get, and the more points you get, you more better cars you unlock and stuff like that. But honestly, it's such a fun racing game, and there's so many things that it absolutely gets right that I'm surprised that we have not seen a sequel for this game. Because one, I think that the visuals by and large hold up. I'm happy to say the check from Gabe, the non-existent check from Gabe cleared. So I have been playing this on the Steam Deck, and it plays really smooth, like right out of the gate. Nothing needed. You just boot up the game and it works, and it looks really nice. Like it's a little bit, it's not like crisp, but it's enough to say, hey, you know what's happening, and you can still get a sense of scale through it. But
it's definitely a 360 and PS3 era game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and I think it even suffers. The main thing, if I was to give it any kind of drawback at this point, and I've played about a few hours of the game now, the main drawback is that it again, like Nick was saying, it suffers from not just the look of a 360 PS3 game, it's the muted color palette. I think there was a period of time where games were like, we gotta desaturate the fuck out of this thing, this game is definitely suffers from it. Even the areas where I'm like, I would love to see the colors pop here, it's a little bit more like tinted to be a death race kind of color tone or whatever. But regardless of that, the cars control so nicely. Like the drifting in this game is so fun that like it makes me, as someone who's absolutely dog shit at drifting, feel like, oh, I'm so cool. Like, I'll flick the end of my car, like, and they'll just graze the edge. I'm like, oh, I planned to do that, not just accidentally. And also like the real kind of the big part of the whole twist is that as you're playing, if you do certain cool things such as drifting or jumping, you get these points at the bottom of your screen, and then once you've built them up enough, you can do a power play, and a power play will pop up in front of you as a as a little prompt, and when you click it, it will trigger some sort of event that changes the track. So a thing on the side of the road could explode. It could just be like a helicopter dropping a barrel of explosive barrel. but it could also be like, a tower is collapsing or a whole building gets demolished. And the
Or
way
like a wrecking ball swings through like a road that you're driving on.
I mean, even earlier today, I was playing before the podcast, and there's a moment where like someone, and other players, even if they're the NPCs, can also trigger the power plays to you. You can only do it, as far as I understand, to the people that are in front of you. So if you're in first place, you're going to get a lot more kind of thrown at you last second. But I remember, like, I remember like as if it happened over 2 hours ago. Essentially it was first and second place. We were neck and neck as we're coming up to the end of the race, and someone behind us triggers the event that Nick was talking about. It's not a wrecking ball, this one, but it was like some sort of construction thing, and it swung out, and I was like, oh shit, this is gonna destroy me, and it just misses me and then clobbers the guy right on my tail. And the tension of that is so, like, it feels very racing game, but you're not going to get that same thing in a Need for Speed. You know what I mean? It's a different level. It adds a level of dynamic. I feel like I'm trying to come up with but it's a dynamic thrills that you can't get anywhere else. So like, yeah, it's honestly having so much fun playing Split Second. I haven't played it on a 360 in a long time, so I can't speak for how that is going to be. But just on the Steam Deck, even if you're playing it in 2024, the game still absolutely holds up. It's so much fun to just boot up and sit down on the couch or lay down in bed, or even just plug it into an external monitor with a USB-C and play it on the big screen. It's awesome, and it's not fully off my backlog just yet. But I know that whenever I do cross it off, it's going to be with a big freaking thumbs up and a smiley face right next to it. I can't tell if Nick is once again frozen or if he's just holding that smile very intensely. Oh, there he's back. He's back.
Oh, I'm back.
There he is. Yeah.
You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Jeez. I don't know what's going on. I think I'm having some connection issues tonight, but I was going to say you definitely have to highlight the coolest part of the power plays, which is if you save up to the max power play, kind of what you described, like you can do a massive event in the level and it will actually change the route that the course can take.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Pretty much any race, like you could race it one way, and if nobody activates it, like, let's use the airport, for instance, like you'll go around like the highways and stuff, and then you'll go through the main airport area. But then if somebody uses the plane crash one, it like
right onto the tarmac.
Onto like the tarmac, and you go through like warehouses and stuff. So I always thought that was like the coolest element, that like these tracks have like multiple variants, and depending on when you choose to use your abilities can really change up the race in interesting ways.
Yeah, and you might think that like you just have to hit the power play every time you get it, but I think like you if you use too many early on, the next time around, if it's a lapped race, like a lot of them have been used and you won't have as many options. So saving those things for second and third laps is crucial if anyone wants some juicy tips. I didn't even notice it this time. I noticed that he was frozen. I was like, I think he's frozen, but he's holding a smile, and I can just keep I could talk my way through it just in case.
Yeah, I was trying to say that the word you were looking for was, I think, emergent gameplay, like during the story, but I think I was frozen at that time.
I did not hear the word. I did not hear that.
Yeah, it wasn't coming through. This will be an interesting podcast.
We always
made it 31 episodes without technical issues.
I know, right? Yeah, that's how it goes. 32 technically, if you talk about the one we recorded, which is not going to come out yet. Now, with that said, Nick, the Silent Hill 2 remake, I see this on there. I don't know what.
We'll tackle it next time, because I know we're a little bit time restricted for this episode. Sure. So we'll just cut that.
Well, let's get into the news. I filled the time, Nick. We already talked about Red Dead. We already talked about Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, here's a quick hitter for the other thing. So Ubisoft is currently going through a bad week, but honestly, it's a bad month, a bad year, a bad last few years, and they've started to add up on them. So there's a lot going on, and as you know, if Nick is the Bethesda fan, I'm the Ubisoft fan. So it's it's my place to give this statement about this, I suppose. So thank you everyone for gathering here today.
You are the Ubisoft spokesperson.
Yes, yeah, pretty much. I think there is Yusuf is also bald, so I think I could probably cosplay as him at a next event. But essentially, Ubisoft has been surprised by the underperformance of their last two big AAA games, which have been Star Wars Outlaws and Avatar: The Last Frontier. Is that what it is?
Frontiers of Pandora.
Frontiers of Pandora, dude, it is something. So both of them have underperformed. I think Assassin's Creed Mirage might have done good, but like these are not. None of these games are selling, Assassin's Creed Valhalla numbers, which Assassin's Creed Valhalla that sold really well for Ubisoft. So admits that we have this internal memo, I think came out that was essentially them that it boiled down to them being a little rattled, about how certain boycotts and shit, like with essentially what's happened with Outlaws and what's currently happening for the last few months with Assassin's Creed Shadows, with people saying, all these random people that are kind of crawling out of the woodwork to complain about the game and pick it apart. They've clearly gotten to Ubisoft's high command because they're unsure kind of about how to best deal with it. I think they're like, let's just not piss them off. Like that's how we should do it. Let's not piss them off. I don't know if that's the best course of action, to kind of not give power to the people making the games. I'm guessing that if Ubisoft sustains the way it is, it'll just be higher mandates coming down of like what you can and cannot do, and I think restricting stories like that it's just a bummer for Ubisoft and the gamers. Now, one of the things that they've been saying is that they're weighing all their options, and one likely option is that they could be acquired, probably by someone who already owns quite a bit of Ubisoft stock. Tencent, of course. Tencent, you might know them as the owners of Riot Games. They have a stock or shares in a number of other companies, including Epic Games. They also have Spotify, like fucking Tesla. I mean, guys. This is the corporations that Cyberpunk 2077 is talking about, all right? Tencent, who they're talking about. So they could be acquired by Tencent. We'll see what that means for the future of Ubisoft. I really hope they don't get acquired, and if they do, I hope it's not someone who's just gonna look. Truth be told, I don't want PlayStation or Xbox to buy Ubisoft. I don't want Far Cry to turn into some console exclusive or limited time console exclusive. Not that it would ideally happen, but look, in the current state of the gaming world, you never know these things. I'm hoping Ubisoft stays independent to whatever degree they can, but you also can't ignore everything else. The poor sales performances of some of these games, even if they are hoping that. I don't know. I necessarily know if this is the reason. If it was like equated directly to it, but they pushed Assassin's Creed Shadows, I think partly to give Star Wars Outlaws more breathing room to going into the holiday season, going on deep sale and then kind of getting the game's number of players up and stuff, just a number of units sold, getting that up. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on at Ubisoft, man. I feel like we've kind of briefly talked about it in episode 32. But Ubisoft has all these projects like Beyond Good and Evil 2 that like what's going on? Like these are, I would imagine, just money black holes that are clearly eating away at their money. Same thing with Prince of Persia as well. As another example, like
Prince of Persia and the money hole that was Skull and Bones with its numerous delays and all that. Yeah. I'm sure that didn't help out.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going on, but that's the Ubisoft weirdness for this week. Now,
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what becomes of this because, yeah, like you said, it's there's a lot of evidence pointing to possibly a buyout happening, but at the same time, the Guillemots have been like very adamant about trying to minimize that for
yeah,
years. Like they really want to keep independent control over their company. So
yeah.
yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how this shakes up.
Now, before we get into the big topics for this episode, last one is honestly a really exciting one. So, Alien Isolation sequel has officially been announced. It is in development, and they did this on the 10th anniversary of the first game, that Alien Isolation. Maybe Nick, this means that I finally could have to muster the courage to beat the first game. I made it about halfway through, and I was like, this game's too scary for me. So I stepped away, but maybe I'll have to finally play it. But I'm very excited. I think it's one of those things that I think the technology, it's similar to the Nemesis system. I feel like whatever they did with the Xenomorph wasn't really utilized because a lot of horror games don't have that active. Like, I think Resident Evil 2 has it. I don't think it's the same way, but Resident Evil 2 has it
It's
with
certainly
Mr. X.
not to the degree that the
Yeah,
Xenomorph has.
exactly.
Mhm.
And so I'm hoping that they come back and they nail it. I'd love to see where this goes in the continuum because I'm a very big Alien fan. I watched Romulus. I've watched all the movies. I've played most of Alien Isolation, and I'm curious to see where this kind of slots in to the canon, I guess, of this world, because the first game was about Ripley's daughter, and so how does that story continue? Where does that go? I don't know.
Mhm.
Will be interesting to see.
Yeah, I've not played Isolation yet. I own it, and I have wanted to play it for a long time, but it's one of those things where the runtime usually kind of turns me off because I know it's a little bit of a longer
It
game.
is. It is. Yeah.
I did pull up the little message real quick, just at the end. This was from the Alien Isolation Twitter account.
Uh-huh.
It says today this is from the creative director, Al Hope.
Who is coming back for this game as well, obviously.
Mhm. Today, I'm delighted to confirm on behalf of the team that a sequel to Alien Isolation is in early development. We look forward to sharing more details with you when we're ready, which is code for this is not coming out next year or
Nope.
the year after.
Yes.
This
Yeah.
is probably a while off.
They already. I mean, at the start they said early development, and so yeah. I mean, even at this is just so that it doesn't leak, and then the surprise gets ruined. Like I know the surprise coming from the developer is much more meaningful than just like some guy saying, "My uncle saw the poster for the game." Hanging at the trash can of the Creative Assembly offices. But all right, so ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the main topic of the show. Let's just say it. It's the Switch 2. All right, this is the Nintendo quote unquote sound clock alarm. Yeah, this is Nintendo revolutionizing the way that their home consoles.
Nintendo talked about hardware. They talked about new hardware.
This is it, dude. New hardware from Nintendo, and this is Alarmo, which is not actually the main topic of this episode, but it is a real thing because it is an interactive alarm clock that responds to body movements with game sounds. And look, I don't know this. Where did this come from, Nick? What part of the industry were they trying to like? How did they get the tip off that this was going to be a hit?
I don't know. Nintendo, they love their weird projects every couple years.
Like
we
Labo?
had, Labo, the Toy Cons. I would lump in Ring Fit Adventure, which
Sure.
interestingly enough is a game that is included in the sound effect kind of things that you can select from, the profiles you can select from. So I wouldn't be shocked if maybe this was that team, just like a new project that they were working on. Which they always have like a little bit of, hardware like that Ring-Con kind of thing for Ring Fit, and obviously the cardboard stuff for Labo. So this thing is so goofy, dude. Like, did you watch the video that they put out for this?
No, I did not.
I watched it when putting together like our little rundown here. And yeah, so like it like starts off by just like playing music from Mario Odyssey, right? And then the person starts like rolling around in bed and it starts making like coin noises. And it's like, yeah, it has a motion sensor, so it uses your body motions to like dynamically use sound effects from the games to wake you up. And then it shows them like
So it's not a
getting up,
camera. So that it's literally just a motion sensor that's
a
picking it
motion
up.
sensor.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
Um, I guess if it's extreme enough, basically they showed once you get out of bed, it plays like a little fanfare, like jingle, like yay, you
You
got up,
fucking
I
did it,
guess.
you bum.
Um,
Oh, I feel enlightened.
like I mentioned, there's different profiles that you can choose that have a couple different games. So they have like Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 3, Breath of the Wild, Ring Fit Adventure, and did I write the other one down? There was another one. Oh,
Pikmin
Pikmin
4.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they all have like different like sound effect profiles and stuff that you can do, different, music that, will be themed around those certain games.
Uh-huh.
Uh one thing that I thought was funny, if you're taking too long to get out of bed, it starts getting more intense. So they showed like the
Yelling
Mario
at you?
profile, like Bowser like appears and like the Bowser music starts playing like if you're taking too long. Um
Dang.
and then the other interesting kind of thing is like you can set different extra stuff. So they had this thing called sleepy sounds, and it's like I guess you can set it for like a specific time, and it's like once you're getting close to bedtime, kind of like Animal Crossing, it starts playing like, weird like, get ready for bed kind of sounds. I don't really know how to
Get ready
describe it,
for
but
bed.
it's like, yeah, like just like soft like chimes and stuff. Like this is
Dang.
such a weird device, but it's so Nintendo, dude.
Look,
And speaking of
are
it
you
being
gonna get this?
Nintendo,
Are you gonna get this?
no,
Okay.
absolutely not.
Okay.
uh I have a hard time getting up in the morning anyway. I don't need a Nintendo clock shouting at me to get up in the
But
morning, but
Nick, it will make coin sounds when you're rolling around in bed.
yeah, that'll probably piss me off. Like a regular alarm is already enough. Now I got to hear like ding 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 when I'm trying to sleep.
Imagine you're in the middle of a dream and all of a sudden, Mario starts fucking saying "wake up,"
Exactly.
and then the coins start coming because the wake up is just part of your regular dream cycle. That's just how you wake up in an average day. But now you get coins
And
added to the mix. It's fucking ruins the Mario.
yeah, I'm trying to pull up something real quick because I need to do a fact check, real lickety split on this because I think it has some very important information that
Ladies
you
and gentlemen, just so you know, we don't lie on the podcast. We're not one of the lying gaming podcasts, okay? Which of
let's
course
see
there are
here.
several. Okay, I'm being honest.
Is it on here? No.
I will say though, this Alarmo fucking website is lighting up my entire area. It's an
Yes,
all
okay,
day
so I do have
experience.
a verification here. So the real kicker, the piece de resistance of the Nintendo factor of this, you can only get it physically in the
In New
Nintendo
York,
New York store,
uh,
or if you can pre-order it online if you're part of Nintendo Switch Online service. How much would you say this clock is if you haven't seen it already?
I pulled up the website, so unfortunately I've seen this price. It is ridiculous. It is nearly
A
double what I think.
smooth 99.99.
It is nearly double what I think would have been a justifiable price for this thing. I would think
$100 for a
I,
Nintendo alarm clock.
I would think it would be the price would be that of a game. I would think that would be understandable to ask, but $100 for for this? I mean,
This
my
is
God.
insane.
Honestly,
I don't
I
even know
don't
what
know
to
who
say.
like
It's just
is this for kids? Like is this for like parents who are like, "Oh, I really want my kid to roll in bed with coins." And so you just
I'm sure.
give them that, or
Yeah.
is it like for adults who are just like, I would just like to do this. I would like to spend
It, it
$100 on this.
it gives me shades of do you remember Tooth Tunes? Did you ever
Oh, is
have
it the
like tooth
brush
tunes?
that played music?
The toothbrush that plays
Yeah,
music when you brush. That's
yeah,
what it
yeah.
kind of made me think of watching this stuff. It's just like, yeah, people that were into tooth tunes would probably really like a a Nintendo Sound Clock
Wow, it
Alarmo.
took them long enough for a sequel to compete with Tooth Tunes.
Also, Sri, I have to tell our listeners this because
Yes.
it made me crack up so much today. Was when I sent you this, the tweet earlier, and I suggested that we pivot to talking about this, and your only response was, "Wow, Alarmo."
Alarmo.
I audibly laughed out loud just reading that.
I just my first reaction was like, wow, and then I looked at the name and I was like, Alarmo. What the wow. I'm just, yeah, honestly I was stunned, and I think I still am a little bit, but hey, I'm sure it's gonna fucking sell out, so get it fast, people. I'm sure
Absolutely,
you'll find it
it's
for a cool 200-300 on eBay right after this. Well,
oh my god.
now let's get on to the actual main topic of the show, which is a bit of an interesting one, but the
A lot
rundown,
interesting.
the baseline, right, to initiate the conversation is that 343 Industries is no more. It is now Halo Studios.
Yeah.
This
Basically. Oop,
no, go
what were you
ahead, go
gonna
ahead.
say?
I was just gonna give first reactions, but we can go break through some of the information a little bit more.
We'll just say how this came out, and then
Yeah.
we can get into that. So, apparently, I had no idea about this, but there was a Halo World Championships like esports event going on, and this
You're not tuned in.
I did not tune in.
You must not have set your
unfortunately.
Alarmo clock to the right time.
Nope,
You missed it. Yeah.
I did not. Um, it's and basically how I saw it was this video that just appeared on YouTube and on social media titled where did I have it? A New Dawn Halo Studios was the title of the video. And you can go watch this. It's about like 5 minutes, I believe. And it's a developer diary basically, talking about kind of a rebranding of 343 Industries, as well as a shift in how Halo games are being made. The most notable aspect of that being an engine change over to Unreal Engine 5.
Yes. Yep.
Which there's probably examples of this happening with other games out there, but certainly like anytime like a big franchise like Halo is getting like a complete like under the hood change, like I think that's a pretty notable thing that is happening.
Yeah. I think, look, I haven't watched this video, but I don't know. Have you watched this video, Nick? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, I can walk through it.
From the vibe, all right, this is what I'm imagining that they're saying. Halo. 343's always been about Halo. And as we sought to look into the next chapter of 343 Industries, we realized we wanted to represent what the fans wanted. We wanted to be Halo. Because at the end of the day, that's what we are. Halo Studios. Boom.
You're not too far off.
All right, now hit me with it.
Yeah, so basically the video, kind of like you said, like it's a lot of developers talking kind of like broadly about the idea of what makes Halo, and bringing up that they are changing engines, which that is notable because Halo Infinite was developed on Slipspace engine, which was an engine created specifically for that game, and was kind of supposed to be like the future of Halo games, right?
Yeah.
And obviously Halo Infinite kind of has had like a rocky kind of history. Like the multiplayer came out, it was free to play, people were really hot on it. Campaign came out, and there was like it's okay, maybe not as great as what the fans wanted. It was missing a lot of features that a lot of other Halo games have shipped with, like co-op campaign and stuff like that just never ended up getting added back into the game.
Yeah.
And in the video, they kind of touch on this.
I gotta say though, Unreal Engine 5 sure looks pretty, man. Oof.
Yeah,
it's a good looking engine.
That's kind of the focus of the video. Actually, is the visuals. And what they're showcasing in there is from a project called Project Foundry.
Mm.
And essentially what this was a like test run to see if all of their departments could really like come together on Unreal Engine and like see what exactly the tech would be able to do as far as, building a Halo game. So Project Foundry, which is what they're showing in the video, they're very clear in that this is not like a new game. This was purely like a
A test build,
experimentation
yeah.
and like test kind of environment for you know their art teams and their technical teams and stuff like that. But they did confirm in a Xbox Wire article that there are multiple Halo games that are in development. So we're not just getting one new game. There are apparently multiple teams that are working on stuff right now. And the some of the highlights from this article, because it does go in a bit more detail than what the video does.
Uh-huh.
Sri, I've mentioned my friend Shane before, and I actually reached out to him earlier today because he is a lot more intimately, in the Halo community. He's definitely like, he plays Infinite pretty frequently, and kind of like how you are with Ubisoft, how I am with Bethesda. He's tapped into Halo,
Sure.
and basically I was asking him, I was like, hey, like is like what's kind of the community pulse on some of this stuff? And like I mentioned before, the video is primarily, interested in talking about like the visual enhancements of Unreal Engine 5. And apparently some people in the community are a little bit upset with the focus purely on that. The Xbox Wire article goes into more detail about what goes into making a Halo game, specifically talking about like the unique physics engine and things like, weapon animations and, the usual stuff that goes along with the visual identity of Halo.
Yeah.
So they don't really get into it in the video, but they do explain how they're, being very considerate with how they are approaching this new kind of technology in this new direction for the
Mm-hmm.
studio. Um, the the switch to Unreal Engine is obviously expanded upon also, and it's not just kind of like some decision that they came up with. It's just like, well, let's just switch to Unreal Engine because, right? There are a couple of different factors behind that, and one of them had to do with specifically like Slipspace Engine and how they were kind of splitting their team between devs that were working on content for Halo Infinite
Yeah.
versus devs that are maintaining the technology of Slipspace and like
Sure.
adding new features and support. And they decided that they would rather have the entire team focus on, actually creating the games versus having people that are dedicated to just like trying to add in functionality that,
Yeah.
Unreal
Yeah.
Engine already has baked into it.
That's fair.
Um, they also talk about how obviously Unreal Engine is super prolific throughout the industry. And rather than, hiring on new people and having to teach them this entire proprietary system of tools with Slipspace Engine, there's a lot of like baked in knowledge that a lot of new hires already have working with
Mm.
Unreal Engine.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
they can just kind of like bring people on, and there's already like kind of a base level of understanding with the tools that eliminates a lot of that like kind of, you know, rough start with new hires.
Right.
And yeah, basically between those two options, that was, or like those two factors, that was kind of a big driving force in, you know, switching the engines up. And they realized that for how big of a franchise Halo is, the games would just naturally just take longer. And that's kind of like a reality of AAA gaming these
Yeah.
days, is
Yeah.
that games are taking longer to make than ever. And as many kind of barriers to, that would pop up to, halt that kind of work, they're trying to kind of sand off or eliminate with an engine switch to Unreal. So
Yeah. I mean,
a couple of
go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just saying that
I was
I think that this is like an interesting change. I think that the most reasonable thing is to have changed their name because I think 343 Industries has this, there's a funk to it now. There's a stink around the name.
Mhm.
After I think they've had, and look, I'm not a Halo fan, so I'm not going to be like saying that they did or did not hit a certain metric. And I think it'll probably, if Halo is like any other video game franchise, it'll hit definitely for everyone. So
Mhm.
say to that what you will, but I think that Halo 5, right? They were like, okay, this is going to be 343 Industries showing themselves. And then it was like, okay, Halo 5 was different. It had like a shorter campaign. Multiplayer was still solid,
Mhm.
but it was just different in that regard. It didn't quite deliver on the story front. I think for a lot of people, it makes sense. I've played Halo 5, and it does feel like it ends halfway through. Like it's like, oh, we're getting into it, and it's like, oh, that's actually the end of the game. And then
Mhm.
Infinite, yeah, had a bit of a weird misstep where it's, the multiplayer did start off strong, but and I did play a lot of the multiplayer, but it's one of those weird things where I feel like when the campaign came out, it's almost like the game's interest went away. Like it was like, I don't know, something about like
Mhm.
that kind of truncated, not truncated, segued release schedule where we get one mode first and then the other mode next. I think that really kind of, yeah, made them hesitate. I think that in the current kind of Xbox landscape of like these IP centric studios that they've created, I think Coalition has a better track record just for both delivering on what I think that the general promise of a Gears of War game is, for them, what fans
Mhm.
expect, but also, which kind of goes to the line in this article that where they talk about how Halo began its life as a graphical showcase for the original Xbox. The goal is to make that so again. I think Gears of War is still that. Gears of War is consistently the best looking game on Xbox. It's really the first party title that makes you think, oh yeah, this is the top of the line. Like this is the best looking games that you can play on this thing. I don't know if Halo Infinite
Mhm.
is that for me on Xbox Series X. I mean, look, I don't know, I can't even compare Halo Infinite to like Fortnite because Fortnite runs on Unreal Engine 5 and there's like
Mhm.
unbelievably good looking locations in that game now, which they were already good and stylized, but like now I know it's like a whole nother level. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's a number of factors that went in to the name change. I do think it's a good thing, especially with like them saying that they're also working on multiple projects and you get more, like it's not as specific. It's from the Halo Studios. It's not necessarily. I don't know. It works better that it's not like any other game company that might even be making a Halo game won't have to be work around the funk that is the 343 Industries name.
Sure. And yeah, like just, they mention in the Xbox Wire article kind of, chapters of Halo, which obviously the community, is tapped into. It's like you have your Bungie arc, and then you have your 343 arc. And 343, like, for as good or as bad as people find those games, it always seemed like they were kind of like behind Bungie and like trying to catch up to that level
Yeah, yeah,
of like Halo 1 through 3. And they're starting to turn that around with Infinite a bit more, but yeah, I think it was, a smart idea to kind of rebrand, like especially if we're going through these giant technological changes and like, kind of philosophy changes on how they're going to be making the games.
yeah.
Just starting fresh with another name is what I would have done. Um, Shane also echoed to me that some fans are a little bit concerned, and that there's a little bit of mistrust that it might just be a change in name only. Um, Shane and I were
Guess we'll
having a
find out.
conversation about it, and it's like, while, people are justified in being concerned about that, um, Shane highlighted to me that like they have gone through a couple of layoffs and the management is like, pretty new now, with these like, changing of the guard basically. um you know People like Bonnie Ross a couple years ago who were like a head over at 343 have, since moved on and everything. So
Hmm.
there is new management in there, there is new people. So whether or not it's justified to be concerned specifically just on the name is, again, I think that's, kind of a wait and see kind of approach. But
Yeah.
um, yeah.
I
uh,
also to kind of mimic some of what, or not to mimic, but I'd like to talk about what's kind of going on in the comments of this announcement video alone. I see the like physics coming up. People really want the Halo physics to be nailed, which
mhm.
is fair. I think that there's a bit of there's a certain play, the way that Halo plays is certainly is distinct. I mean, I was talking about earlier about how I think that the Starfield rover kind of feels like a Warthog. A little bit, as you had said, a little bit cheaper version of a Warthog, but yeah. So
Yeah.
there's a certain sandboxy way that Halo plays that not a lot of first-person shooters have. That's what really distinguishes. Like that's why you really can't put Halo and Call of Duty against each other fully, because they're kind of inherently different gameplay games. They're just first-person
Well, I
shooters,
actually
but
wanted to bring that up because Sri, you probably remember, as I do, there was a time when,
yes,
Call of Duty, Battlefield, and Halo were kind of like, three sides of the same triangle, right?
yeah, yeah,
As far as the multiplayer first person shooter kind of juggernauts were concerned. And obviously, in the years that have passed since, that triangle has definitely changed. I mean, Call
yep,
of Duty, while it has its peaks and valleys, it's roughly stayed pretty consistent as far as like garnering a massive player base and everything. While I feel like Battlefield and Halo both have kind of stumbled in the
yes,
last couple entries, and it's definitely kind of like, you know, there was a shift, obviously, from like more traditional team-based multiplayer shooter games to things that we see now, like, Concord, like Overwatch, like Valorant, kind of a shift to the more hardcore and like hero-based stuff.
yeah,
That like things like Halo and Battlefield tried to like incorporate like versions of. Like I know in the brief amount of time that I played Battlefield 2042, like there's operators and stuff like that. That was always a
yeah,
big thing. Call of Duty still has operators that
yeah. I think that was a big point
are.
of Battlefield, was that it launched, and instead of being able to pick the classes like you normally do, it was just like you
Mhm.
had to pick an operator who happened to be within whatever you liked. I think it was
Yeah, and
something like that.
lo and behold, we're talking about Halo kind of rebranding and maybe trying to piece back together some of that legacy history. Also, Vince Ampella, when we talked about the new Battlefield recently, talking
Yeah,
about how, hey, modern setting, hey, we're bringing back classes, we're getting rid of operators. So, uh, I
yeah.
think it's.
I honestly, I think that if anything, it kind of feels like Halo and mainly Battlefield, because again, I think Halo, while it was a first person shooter, and I feel like it's not even playing on the same field anymore, but I think they're essentially going through what Call of Duty went, but just later. Like they are currently in like the advanced warfare of Call of Duty right now, and call
Mhm.
like and that's kind of the point where Call of Duty was like, oh, okay, hold on, we got a few more games in the thing, but like let's see what you guys want, boots on the ground. All right, let's get rid of jetpacks and a present day setting. Let's try to do that, or like even better, put boots on the ground, put it historical like World War II or something.
Mhm.
So I think that kind of thing, where they were
Kind of
coming
those
out of a
middle
slump,
years.
yeah, like where they're coming out of a slump, and they were luckily, I think, with the launch of Modern Warfare 2019, as we've said, huge, but
Yeah.
also Warzone really kind of complemented that whole package really well, and took to Call of Duty was able to rebound really well off of that slump. Will
Mhm.
Battlefield and Halo? I mean, I hope so, but we'll see. I mean, it's hard to say what decision will come out of Battlefield. Like what decision will kind of dictate the direction of that series? Because yeah, it would be great to say it's another modern day setting, boots on the ground Battlefield, but like any number of things could ruin that experience. And similar thing with
Mhm.
Halo. I think they have Halo Studios now, no longer 343 Industries, has a lot to prove to fans, and
Mhm.
And even if they are trying to just become the graphical showcase that Halo used to be for the original Xbox, I feel like you can't, like, I don't want that to be a crutch in which they're like, yeah, we know the story was bad, but like the graphics were great. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't want that to be like an easy way out.
Right, especially, after shipping a couple games that, from the eyes of fans didn't have, feature parity with like older titles, like, they definitely have to kind of deliver the goods whenever
Yes, and
these projects come
deliver the
out.
goods, but deliver the goods at once. No long, like not the segmented release schedule, because I think that always I think even the 3 days early access shit is kind of crap. Like just like release
Mhm.
the game same day for everybody. But regardless of that, the releasing one whole game mode beforehand and then releasing the and I could even understand why they had made that decision, because again, like I said, Warzone came out as a free to play thing, got a whole bunch of people in, and then it kept people kept going back for the rest of the Call of Duty games. But the difference
Mhm.
is that Call of Duty at the say what you will about Call of Duty, at the very least, it was a package that was like had a campaign. Oh my god! Just ordered mine online, Mister Vaca. Are you talking about Alarmo? Oh my god! Hello, we were just wondering. Actually, that's incredible. Thank you for your service. So the Call of Duty launched multiplayer, single player, everything, and then Warzone was a free to play addition to that package.
Mhm.
Halo was giving away their core gameplay. Like that, the multiplayer is what I'd say a lot of people play Halo for. Story, 5 to 10 hours, you're done. Multiplayer
Mhm.
is what keeps coming back, and that really hyped for Alarmo. But I have a feeling my wife will kill me. That's fair, honestly. I'm on your wife's side. But hey, you could just tell her that it was better that you spent $100 on it from Nintendo than like 300 from eBay. You know what I mean?
uh Sure. I would say maybe just don't even bring up the $100 point.
Listen, honey,
Just
it was I went to a strip club. You'll get away with it.
um Sri, there's one other aspect to all of this that I wanted to tackle specifically, which was a couple months back there were some rumors that a Halo Combat Evolved remake was in the works
And
um
that it was coming out.
on PlayStation.
Yes.
Uh a lot of, well, specifically in the Project Foundry video, they do have the model for Chief that looks very similar to the Combat Evolved model. I'm not exactly certain if it is the exact same one or not, but it obviously is very evocative of that, that era of Halo. And when I see multiple projects in the works and I look at, the trajectory that Xbox has had over the last year with stuff, that Combat Evolved remake is starting to look a lot more realistic to me, especially if they wanted a project to kind of wet the team's
Test
whistle
the
with.
waters and
Exactly. New technology. Well, let's use this groundwork from a game that we already know people like and that was successful, and we can really just kind of, flesh things out with the technology end of that.
you think
So,
this
um,
next Halo game, the remaster, is going to come to PlayStation?
uh I I think so. Yeah, at this point, like I know that there's, Xbox is still kind of being cagey about, you know, hard confirming different games, but I think after seeing Doom the Dark Ages, which some people would say doesn't really count because that game was likely,
Already
already
in
in
the
the
works.
works
Yeah.
prior to acquisition and everything. Starfield was a bit different. It was like, they were shopping around for exclusivity and, new IP. So Xbox kind of, that's
Scooped
at
it
least
up.
their messaging
Yeah.
on it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like, hey, Elder Scrolls and Fallout, maybe they'll come, but Starfield's ours. So I just
Yeah.
think after seeing that and seeing Indiana Jones get announced for a PlayStation 5 version, at this point, with a rebrand and all of that evidence and, seemingly more pressure from up top for Xbox these days, yeah, I would put money down that whatever the next Halo is, if it is a Combat Evolved remake or whatever, I would be pretty confident in seeing that would be on PlayStation.
How about for the Nintendo Switch? I mean, of course, they did promise 10 years of Call of Duty coming to the Nintendo Switch.
Honestly, why not?
Yeah.
Like at this point, like they have, I don't think Hi-Fi Rush is confirmed yet for Switch, even though there was leaked files and everything.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
dang.
I think the only one that ever got officially announced was the PlayStation version, unless I'm
Yeah.
mistaken
That's
on
what I
that.
remember, but
But yeah, I mean, they have the Ori games, they have Grounded. Obviously, Grounded and Sea of Thieves have done like really well on PlayStation. So why not? Especially if it's, okay, let me add an addendum here. It depends on how hardware rich the thing after Alarmo that Nintendo is working on is
New
going to
Nintendo
be.
hardware. I mean, Mr. Vac has already got the pre-order down. So,
Yeah, so if it is, up to more modern standards, sure, I could see Halo coming up on here. If they really are pushing that game to the limits with Unreal Engine 5, maybe not Nintendo, but
the real question, Nick, is the next Halo game going to come to Alarmo? Can you roll around and then hear like fucking, I don't know, the warthog revving up as you like roll around in bed?
I doubt that.
Every time you have to, let's see, I'm trying to think of when you get up, it's the needler sound. That'd be a good sound.
Well, the plasma grenade and the gravity hammer, those are some good
Those are
Halo
good sounds. See, we're onto something here.
The Magnum from Halo 1, also legendary. Masahiro Sakurai is winding down his YouTube channel that he has been producing videos for the last like year or two. Obviously, the man is intimately attached to the Super Smash Brothers series, and if Nintendo would be tapping on him again to sort of, take that into a new approach, but if they still wanted some crossover stuff, because that was obviously super successful with Ultimate.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's based on that. But yeah, I could see like, if there is any sort of crossover there, like, hey, Chief's in the next Smash Brothers game.
A Smash theme would be awesome. Hey, write it in. I'm sure Nintendo.
Yeah, could you imagine getting the items and stuff in Smash Brothers
I feel like
Halo,
is a pretty. I mean, we've been joking around. I think Smash is probably a gimme for the Alarmo. I mean, they say and more like coming, so I have to imagine that there's fan favorites have to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Nick, who knows? Maybe Luigi's Mansion, Dark Moon. You get ghost sounds.
Absolutely.
It's there. It's made for it.
It'll be a limited time thing. It'll be just in October. You can get it.
All right. See, now you're trying to sell me on it, Nick, and I don't fucking appreciate that. You can't add in limited timed alarm clock deals. I mean, that changes the landscape. Tell me I can only experience Waluigi's alarm clock sounds in March? That's ridiculous.
I have a more interesting proposal here. What is the Sony knockoff of Alarmo going to be? Because Sony always loves following in the footsteps of Nintendo.
It's the Sony Wake Up Man.
That's good.
Yeah. And
you get your Last of Us, your God of War, your Horizon.
Yep.
Your Ghost of Tsushima, Ghost of Yote.
Well, yeah, like I don't know, I'm trying to think of like sounds and then like what they would go with, because that seems to be a crucial part of the Alarmo. Oh, a clicker? Astro Alarm Bot. Oh.
Astrobot,
yeah. Let's see. So before a character from the title you selected waits you patiently on your screen. Okay, Astrobot obviously makes sense. I mean, Sackboy, another easy one you could throw on there. The
Nah,
alarm.
they're trying to kill Sackboy. Have you seen all that stuff?
No. Is this
They're
conspiracy theory?
delisting, yeah, they're delisting Little Big Planet 3
Really?
after like some server stuff got hacked and all that. But yeah, people are
Oh,
like,
damn.
I saw a tweet that was like, Little Big Planet's header has Astrobot in it. We're so we're so like over or whatever. And they're trying to erase Sackboy.
Uh,
Astro's taking his lunch.
Alarm begins. Gentle sounds unique to the scene you've chosen begin to play. Oh man, yeah, I could hear clickers there. Oh, or the drum or the guitar from Ellie. Ellie playing the guitar. If we're being realistic, a visitor arrives. After a few seconds, someone or something from the scene you picked will appear. Wave your hand or move your body to make the clock quieter, depending on the title you've chosen. You might also hear coins and other familiar game sounds when you interact with Alarmo. This is the clicker. This is when the clicker comes in, and the clicker starts
That
going
or Ellie or Abby messing with like guns at the weapon bench.
yeah,
Like all the random clicking and all that hammering and stuff.
It's no, and you know what it is? If you pick God of War, it's him going, "Boy, wake up."
Yes.
A brief snooze. Eventually, your visit will end, and gentle sounds will play until until your visitor returns. This will repeat a number of times if you stay in bed. Oh, so it gets worse with each time. If you stay in bed, it's like, "Boy, your mother taught you to hunt." Yes. Time to get up. If you stay in bed for too long, your alarm will get more intense and you'll get a visit from someone more persuasive. Oh my God, the world serpent. The world serpent will show up. And then you did it. When you get all the way out of bed, the alarm will stop and you'll be treated to a brief victory fanfare. Hooray. Or hurrah, actually, I think is what it say. Now, here's the thing.
That part of the song that, gets all like intense at the end.
Yeah. I have to imagine you can just trick this thing, right? You just get up and then go back. You sit back down and you go back to sleep.
Just toss your blanket over or something. But you have to remain very still because that motion sensor is going to pick that up.
Yeah. Now,
I want to know if they built this planning for any sort of collaboration with Pokemon Sleep and get just everything tracking your sleep patterns.
Here's the thing, though. Actually, I was going to say this earlier, but I was like, no, it's kind of like the Nintendo thing anyway. But like, I actually have the the Pokemon Go Plus, which is essentially a watch that looks like a little waypoint with a Pokeball aesthetic, and in the center is the Pokeball button is pressable. And when you're exploring my dumbass just said the open world, dude. When you walk out of your door and explore the open, procedurally generated open world, you'll if you walk past like a Pokestop, the watch will ring, and then you can just tap the button instead of having to open your phone and then open the app and everything like that. So, but regardless of that, the packaging is very, very similar to that thing. But again, it's Nintendo packaging to a certain degree, so I can't say it's like, it's weird. But yeah, it feels. Also, a good 1/5 of the box is warning label for ingestion hazard, death. Oh yeah, death or serious injury may occur if ingested. Who's ingesting an alarm clock? This is not a what?
People that see those is it a cake or not videos on TikTok or whatever.
Oh my God! Keep new and used batteries out of reach of children. Fair enough. That's a good point. And seek immediate medical attention if you purchased a Nintendo sound system. Oh, yeah, Mr. Vaca, you might have to go to a doctor. Apparently, seek medical attention if you purchased one right off on day one, so you gotta go look at that. Anyway, dude, how did this look at this, Nick? You thought it was a joke that we would turn Alarmo into a main topic, but here we are looping back to Alarmo.
Yeah, we kind of said what we had to say about Halo.
Yeah,
Just went back to Alarmo.
The more interesting, the more significant news. That's what it is. Well, I mean, this episode, I don't actually have a segment of the inbox because we've covered quite a bit last week. There's just one thing which I do want to highlight because I think it's actually it's pretty freaking sick. So in this shortened version of the inbox, I'm going to show you guys Legacy, Steel, and Sorcery. So this is from a new studio called Notorious Studios, and it's from industry veterans key to the evolution and operation of World of Warcraft. So Legacy, Steel, and Sorcery is a multiplayer epic fantasy that is going into an early free alpha demo at Steam Next Fest from October 14th through October 21st. So originally, the name of the developers, World of Warcraft Guild, 17 years ago, they have now taken their name to new heights with the founding of Notorious Studios. Establishing their first new IP, Notorious brings true gaming pedigree and engaging fantasy action combat to a core class fantasy multiplayer epic. Set within the realm of Mithrighard, this lush world is now engaged in enveloped in a mysterious fog, and only brave heroes can venture forth and claim the lost treasures of a fantasy world gripped by an ancient evil. I looked at the gameplay and I thought that was pretty sick. I look, again, this is early gameplay. What we're going to be able to play next week, or starting next week, is again the alpha demo. But still, like, I think that the stylized the style of this is very strong. It's very stylized to be like Blizzard. Weirdly enough, I do pick up on some of their design sensibilities in that way. Mm-hmm. And just Legacy, Steel, and Sorcery. I think it's captured my interest. So a short episode or a short segment of the inbox, but one I highly recommend checking out. I'm sure if I get time, if I'm able to make progress in split second and I can step away, I'll try to give you guys thoughts on Legacy. Though I doubt it will be playable on the Nintendo Switch. I mean, what the fuck? Of course it's not going to be playable on the Steam Deck. Oh my god, I can't believe I made that mistake.
Switch,
no, Gabe, the check's not going to come through anymore, Nick. Shit. Well, Nick, do you want to end on the like this, try that, or do you have something else you want to tackle beforehand? Because we got time.
How about I circle around and just briefly touch on Silent Hill? We kind of teased that earlier.
Sure.
Yeah. So I picked up the Silent Hill 2 remake.
Wait, did that come out today?
Tuesday.
It was yesterday. Okay.
So yeah, I was initially on the fence about it. Obviously, I kind of fed into a lot of the internet kind of criticism of
you doubted Bloober Team.
And yeah, I haven't really played any of their games, I don't think, but like I've watched like gameplay and stuff, and like I've I know roughly like what the medium is and stuff like that. So like I was at least like somewhat familiar with their body of work. But yeah, Silent Hill 2, I've played the original a couple years ago, and obviously this is, one of the, this is like an all-time,
it's a seminal horror games.
Seminal video game, seminal horror game, whatever you want to, put it on.
Yeah.
So obviously the stakes are pretty high. But so far it's pretty good.
How far are you?
Reviews came out, and it, a lot of people were talking highly of it. That's what pushed me to go ahead and pick it up. I've put 5 hours in so far. So
how long of a game is it? Like normally, like what was the original game runtime?
So the original, I think, is like around like 7 hours, maybe 7 or 8 hours. Like it's not a super long
So
game.
you're
I've heard this one's between like 15 and 20. So it's
what?
definitely expanded.
Oh my
Hmm.
god, that's over double.
Yeah, it's so far I've gotten through the apartments, which for anybody that's played Silent Hill 2, that's kind of like the first main area that
Hmm.
you get involved with.
Okay.
Prior to that, there was like another sub area that was completely new, and a lot of the town is now like certain buildings are open and explorable that weren't in the original one.
Hmm.
So they've definitely expanded stuff. It definitely has DNA or like influence from Resident Evil 2 remake and also a bit of Dead Space remake, funnily enough,
Oh.
that I've picked up on, with like how certain enemies work and how certain like animations play out. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, the one thing I will say, it's a little bit rough around the edges in some technical areas, like
Hmm.
lighting around reflections. I've noticed is like you get like weird artifacts and stuff, and
Have you
sometimes in really
is
tight
that a byproduct of
spaces.
just the game, or have you tried like is there like a performance mode and fidelity mode and something like that?
I'm playing on performance. There is actually a decent amount of options that you can
Oh,
tinker
okay.
with in the game. But yeah, I tried to tinker with that stuff, and it like is kind of persistent on whatever mode you're playing on. So I think it's just something that might be ironed out over time
Sure.
with patches. But the one thing I will say is that they definitely got the vibe down pretty well, and this is one spooky game.
Well, I mean, hey,
I've been
perfect for the
scared a
season.
couple times already, so yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's definitely scratching a niche.
Well, yeah, it's been one I've been wanting to get into, but I don't know. I feel like Silent Hill is the biggest factor of like, oh, I want to play the first game before I play the second one, but it's just like, when am I gonna fucking play the first one? And
Honestly,
yeah,
like if you're interested, I would probably just say hop into two because I
okay,
mean, like a lot of people, obviously, in a perfect world, I would say, if you have the ability to play the originals, play the original first and then play, the
right,
remake. But like if that's just like completely out of, you know, grasp or like, you're playing like a bastard version of it like the HD collection, like I would say maybe just start with this. But
well, hey,
obviously in a perfect world, if they had a good working modern port of the original, I would say play that.
yeah. Um, well, I know that Austin picked it up, so we might actually play it. We might check it out this weekend. I will tell you
Nice.
this: I know I seem relatively slacking in the horror department, but let's see. Next week is a certain horror game coming out, and I we may or may not be reviewing it. So come back. Well, not next week because I'll be away again. We're on hiatus next week. There will be an episode, but it will be off. So the week after that, next time you see us live, I'll hopefully be talking about a game that I'm hoping it's good, man. I really fucking hope it's good. But yes. Do you have anything for like this? Try that before we end the episode.
Um, if you like Resident Evil, try Luigi's Mansion.
Damn, I thought you were gonna say Silent Hill 2 remake. If you like, let's see, Michael Bay movies, then play Split Second.
Ooh,
I
that's a good one.
think it's a good one. But with that said, people, as always, thank you so much for watching. Thanks to everybody who tuned in live for the 31st episode of the Respawn Station podcast. Episode 32
Thanks
will
for
not...
bearing with us on technical issues.
Nick, you held a smile for a very long time, man. It was very impressive. Next episode, like I said, this is the last time I'm going to say it, will not be live, but it's a really good one, and I highly recommend you go check it out because honestly, it's an hour-long conversation with an indie developer, and the hour flew by. It was very interesting, and I always find just talking to indie developers very enlightening. It's a peek behind the curtain. I feel like I'm not supposed to be there, and until someone says, "Hey, what are you doing here?" I can just kind of pick and prod as much as I want. And pick and prod, Nick and I certainly did. We kind of tackled in many different angles, and I think it worked out. Yeah, it's a cool conversation. So check that out. Obviously, check out respawnstation.com to read the interview with game director of My Time series. It's a really good interview. And thank you to everybody who did it. Our website traffic went up times 5 yesterday because of that article or that interview. So thank you to everybody. And if you're new here from that, welcome. But with that said, people, as always, thank you for watching. And as always, oh God, not as always. Until next time, have a good night, a good morning, and a damn good time.